I will now recognize Mr. Ryan Houston, Executive Director for the Oregon Natural Desert Association. Mr. Wilson, you have 5 minutes.
Chair Tiffany.
Mr. Houston.
Thank you.
My apologies.
Chair Tiffany, Ranking Member Neguse, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for this opportunity to testify today. My name is Ryan Houston, Executive Director of the Oregon Natural Desert Association. We are a community-based group representing more than 25,000 members and supporters who promote public lands conservation in Oregon's high desert. For the reasons described in my written testimony, my organization opposes H.R. 10082, and as you'll see in the record, our opposition is echoed by dozens of organizations representing millions of members nationwide. Instead of moving this proposal, we encourage Congress to advance Senate Bill 1890, the version of the Oahe Canyon Lands proposal developed by the local community with Senator Ron Wyden and co-sponsored by Senator Jeff Merkley. But before I offer my comments, let me first introduce you to Oregon's Oahe Canyon Lands. The Oahe is nestled in the far southeastern corner of Oregon and extends into portions of Idaho and Nevada. The watershed spans more than 11,000 square miles, dominated by deep, rugged canyons, expansive sagebrush plains, and some of the most remote wildlands in the lower 48. If you imagine for a moment climbing into a kayak high up in one of the tributary streams, you would be floating in a stream no wider than half the width of this table. You could float downstream for 2 weeks, flanked by 1,000-foot cliffs, under the watchful gaze of bighorn and golden eagles, and past dozens of sacred sites reflecting the long history of the northern Paiute, Shoshone, and Bannock peoples who have lived in this landscape since time immemorial. After 2 weeks of floating, as you approach the Oahe Reservoir, you'd be adrift on a river that has now grown to be twice the width of this room. And throughout this trip, you would have pitched your tent below the blanket of the Milky Way, stretching from horizon to horizon across the darkest night skies in the country. A shared love of this landscape is what brought so many diverse stakeholders together in 2019 when Senator Wyden first convened a group of ranchers, tribes, hunters, conservation groups, and others to develop a proposal for the protection and management of the Oahe Canyon Lands. I first met one of the other witnesses today, Mr. Elias Guerin, at that table in 2019. I admire and respect Elias and other members of the Oahe Basin Stewardship Coalition, as we have thoroughly debated tough issues, but also enjoyed each other's company around the campfire on the banks of the Oahe River. And I'm proud that we have done this respectfully and with civility. Through these conversations, there were 2 key places where our overlapping interests helped create the foundation for Senator Wyden's proposal. My organization is seeking permanent protection of the Oahe. The ranchers also want to keep it as it is, provided those protections do not undermine their livelihood. The ranchers seek more flexibility in grazing to improve management. My organization also wants to improve management, provided it doesn't undermine existing law. And when Senator Wyden merged these elements with the interests of all the other equally important stakeholders involved, he arrived at a proposal that lands in the sweet spot where dozens of shared interests overlap. This is not easy to do, and I think this achievement is reflected in the fact that this bill was voted out of committee in the Senate with bipartisan support, and it continues to receive broad support from the many people and organizations who sat at the table for so many years. While H.R. 10082 does touch on some of the same topics as the Senate proposal, it misses that sweet spot in very significant ways, and consequently undermines the delicate balance negotiated in S. 1890. I believe this reflects the fact that H.R. 10082 was developed without the involvement of many key stakeholders. When compared to the Senate bill, H.R. 10082 discards the ecological health framework, reduces science and accountability, replaces a stakeholder committee with a smaller industry-dominated group, overrides a broadly supported management plan for the Oahe, establishes roads and promotes motor vehicle use in wilderness, resulting in the designation of something other than actual wilderness, and it burdens the Burns Paiute tribe with unfair obligations and constraints. I will conclude by again encouraging Congress to focus on Senate Bill 1890 and by sharing a quote from one of the ranchers' representatives, Mark Dunn. He was speaking for the ranchers, but he could have been speaking for many of us when he said in 2023, quote, "We are still hopeful that Congress can pass the compromise that Wyden and Merkley have achieved." Thank you again for the opportunity to testify today, and I'd, of course, be pleased to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.